Welcome back to the pod, brought to you by lifespark.bio, because even kickers need strong swimmers. Today's guest is Emmet Kenney, Stanford's starting kicker, the man with ice in his veins and a golden boot. Quick background, Emmet grew up in Fargo, North Dakota. He's a high school kicking legend. He set the North Dakota state record with a 58-yard field goal. He hit two 50-yarders in a single game, which is insane in high school. Stanford career has been hot. He had a couple of game-winning heroics. He had a 39-yard field goal walk-off to beat Syracuse 26-24. I will always remember watching that on my phone, and I literally threw my phone. And he hit a career-long 52-yarder to take down number 22 Louisville 38-35, probably the most epic ending of college football this entire season. Had stellar stats, and Emmet, fired up to have you on, dude. Can you introduce yourself for those who might not know you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Conrad. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, like you mentioned, I'm from Fargo, North Dakota, and I had the opportunity to come out here and kick and try to fill some of the big shoes that you and some of the kickers before me left behind. So it's been really fun trying to do my best in that regard.
Yeah, dude, I love that, man. Well, you're doing a great job, and I've heard Stanford be, tight end you. We would definitely have some tight ends, but how do we make the case for kicker you?
Oh, I mean, I think we just got to keep going as we are. Josh is doing his thing. Josh Carty's doing his thing at the next level right now with the Rams, and I'm stoked for him, the run that he went on at the end of the year as well. And so I'm going to try my best to hold it down for us over this next season, of course. And I'm sure that he's going to do his thing up there, and who knows, let's see if we can keep it going.
Dude, 100%. So growing up in North Dakota, how does a guy from there end up kicking at Stanford?
For me, I thought the route would honestly pretty difficult. Growing up at Fargo, trying to get that recruiting traction, it was really difficult, to be honest. And so, before I got my Stanford offer, I had only scholarships from local schools, from area Dakota schools. And you mentioned that kick that I was lucky enough to make from the state record field goal, that one got a little bit more traction on Twitter. And then Matt Moran, who was our assistant special teams guy here at the time, he was able to see it. And from there, I had two brothers that went to Stanford. So, it's always been a dream school of mine. I've always known about the place. And once I picked up a preferred walk-on offer, I jumped at it and I committed on the call.
That's epic, dude. I was also a preferred walk-on. I think it's a great way for kickers. I get it, right? You don't want to offer a kicker a scholarship because if you miss, right, it's a much bigger loss than if you miss on a linebacker who could still run down on kickoff.
Totally. Absolutely. Yep.
Totally, dude. And so was football always the plan? Did you play any other sports growing up?
Yeah, football was actually not the plan. Basketball was by far my favorite sport. I played it all the time. I just kind of had that plateau a little bit earlier than I wanted, and I'd always played soccer and football, growing up through middle school, but I kept picking up injuries when I was trying to play wide receiver, but I still wanted to hang around the team because my friends were quarterbacks and linemen and receivers and whatnot. So I just kind of figured I might as well give kicking a try, see if I can merge my experience in soccer with still being able to hang around my friends a little bit. And I really just fell in love with it. I became kind of obsessed and started going to the camps and things, which, I'm sure you know all about, trying to get noticed in high school and everything like that. Yeah, from there, it was football only, and finally got my Stanford offer in my senior fall. So I was really lucky with the way the timing worked out.
That's awesome, dude. And yeah, for those who don't know, kicking, punting, snapping, it's a community, right? You go to all the same camps in high school and you kind of get to know everyone, which is pretty cool, I think, right? So it's like, you're kicking against Cal and, the Cal kicker because you went to camp with him in high school. So it's kind of like a little fraternity within college athletics.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really easy to get excited for other guys. Somebody
totally
that was in my age group, kind of coming up through the ranks, especially through the Coles kicking camps and whatnot, was Cam Little. And now he left Arkansas after only 3 years, and he's had an amazing season for the Jaguars in his first season in the league. So, yes, being able to kind of root on the other guys. Because, I feel like, I don't know if you felt like this, but I feel like even when you're watching other kickers, when they're playing Stanford, of course, you want the guy to miss, but still, you really... You feel bad for a guy if they pull one, even if it's against your team, just because people like us, we're the only ones that know how difficult it is, both physically, but especially, mentally, obviously. So it's a fun fraternity to be a part of. Yeah.
For sure, man. And I'm sure you get this all the time. I still get, my last season was 2016. So basically 10 years ago. And I still get texts to this day when, someone misses a kick in an NFL game. They're like, dude, you would have made that. You know what I mean? Do people ever text you stuff like that?
Yeah, I think, especially growing up, we're right on the border with Minnesota, so everyone is Vikings fans. The Vikings have had some pretty documented kicker struggles, and so it's always that line like the Vikings needed you on Sunday, that and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, it's just it's an incredibly difficult job, and I can't imagine the pressure at that level as well. So it's a challenge, but as it's a lot of fun.
Totally, dude. It's so fun. And coming in as a preferred walk-on, what was that like for you?
It was an interesting experience. I think I was lucky that I'd had, like I said, a couple brothers go here, because the transition from Fargo to Stanford was just, it was like crossing over worlds essentially. But being able to lean on them when it came to trying to, acclimate to the school environment and whatnot was huge. And then on the team, I think we have a phenomenal culture within our locker room in terms of, you're really not treated anything differently. Whether you're a walk-on guy, scholarship guy, even in the NIL era now, if you're making a lot of money, a little bit of money, I think, in our locker room, at least, that's really not something that people worry about or focus on. And so that made it really easy to just try to, come up alongside all the other freshmen in a manner that was no different, whether they were on scholarship or not.
Totally, dude. I'll always remember when I was a freshman, I was also a preferred walk-on like you, and I had to take care of the clipboard at practice. Just the youngest guy always had to take care of the clipboard, and I hated it, dude. Because before practice, I'd have to go upstairs, get the clipboard, and then after practice, I have to go and get the clipboard. And sometimes I forgot it, and I would have to leave meetings and run out and get it. Was there ever anything like that for you as a freshman?
Totally. I think, and special teams coach Pete Almar, he really wanted to make sure that we were staying engaged on the sideline, because I was sitting behind Josh. Josh, an incredible kicker. I kind of knew my role at that time. And so, yeah, I was the guy with the clipboard, and I was in charge of making sure that everyone was up when it was time for us to go on our punt unit. And so, I'd have to run down, you grab the guys on defense, the gunners and whatnot, say, hey, we're, in a punt situation, you got to bring it up. And there was one time that I forgot to go down and get our field side gunner before the punt. And oh my gosh, one of my friends just sprinted out there, and thank God he kind of covered for me, because he was able to go down and kind of assist in the tackle. But yeah, that conversation with Coach A was not that fun.
Dude.
Yeah.
Wait, that's wild. Did a random guy who was just another gunner run in who wasn't supposed to be in that play?
Exactly. He was a walk-on in my grade. Is our freshman year. We're actually playing against Notre Dame. So it's, in a big game. He hadn't played a snap that year. He sees that we need a gunner, and he says, whatever, like, I'm going to go take this rep. And the coaching staff loved it. He sprinted out there, and he was able to get his first snap.
Dude, that's ballsy. I love that. Who was that?
His name's Evan Jackson.
Evan Jackson. Dude,
yeah, he was my
Evan
roommate.
Jackson.
Yeah, he was my roommate that first summer. He's an awesome guy, and he's a go-getter. So I'm not surprised that he took advantage of my mistake.
Dude, that's epic. Did you have a welcome to college football moment for us? We had to take the rope. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, where basically it's tug of war, you against 15 other dudes, and basically they just, until they think you've earned it, like, they're not going to give it to you.
Right. I did hear stories about that, which sounds absolutely ridiculous to me, especially if a position group doesn't like a certain freshman or whatnot.
Dude, it was an equalizer, dude. If you came in as a cocky freshman, you got equalized. For sure.
I can imagine. Oh my God, that'd be so brutal. Thankfully, yes, we didn't have to take the rope my freshman year, but we did. I don't know if you ever did the price check challenge, but so price check challenge for us, it was something we did once every off season, and it was 500 pounds on a sled that's tied to a battle rope, like probably similar to the ones that you used when you were taking the rope. And then you had to plant your feet in the turf and started just pulling hand over hands this 500-pound sled. And you got to keep in mind, I'm probably like 185 pounds at this point, trying to pull 500 with my feet planted and everything. And it was the absolute worst pain I've ever had. I could barely walk the next day. My back was just, destroyed. So that was a brutal experience of, okay, this is pretty serious work that we're going to have to put in here.
Totally, dude. So you come in 2021 as a freshman, and then sit behind Josh Carty, obviously incredible kicker. He just had an amazing season with the Rams. And then coming in as a senior, how was that transition, dude, from going from a backup to being the starter? I actually had a very, very similar trajectory as you. I was the backup my first 3 years. I played in 8 games as a sophomore because Jordan Williamson got hurt. But how was that transition, dude? And was it what you expected? Obviously, you crushed it.
Yeah, I think honestly, it was everything I could have hoped for. yeah, I remember when I started my freshman year, I was at the end of the locker row, and now being up at the front, it's kind of weird. It's definitely a weird transition, and trying to, figure out how to be a leader, then also balancing that while you have to perform on the field. So it was a big change. I wasn't able to be kind of, like the jokester, like hanging out on the sideline anymore, which, I still miss to this day, kind of, whether it's interacting with the student section or the fans or whatnot. But, it's a really worthwhile change, because just being able to get on the field. And, like you mentioned, you had to wait your turn as well a little bit. And I think once you finally get that reward of all the hours in off season, it's just everything I could have hoped for.
Totally, dude. It's a huge mindset shift, to your point, right? For the first 3 years, unless something goes drastically wrong, right? A kicker's not getting hurt. So you can kind of eat whatever you want in the pregame meal and go get the fans pumped up, dude. It's a very different mindset, to your point, for sure. And how is your process, dude? Like, take me through your game day.
Yeah, so game day, I really just try to stay as relaxed as possible. And for me, sports psychology is the biggest thing. So I meet with my sports psychologist every Friday before a Saturday game day. I'm really just trying to, remind myself of my breathing routines, work through my process, because, that mental side of the game, as is so critical to what we do. And so for me, it's a lot of breathing routines, trying to make sure that I'm consistent in everything, whether it's what I'm eating, how I'm warming up, every process. I like to have the same, I listen to the same songs before the game every time. You really want to feel that routine. Just so it's like, no matter if you're playing in Death Valley or, you're playing a home game or wherever it is, it feels kind of the same. And so for me, I try to do everything consistent. And then I absolutely make sure to load up on that teriyaki chicken. I don't know if you guys had that in the pregame meals, but
oh yeah, dude.
Oh my God, it's unbelievable.
It hits. Oh my God, I'm dreaming about it. Nice. Okay, so you're getting your protein in. That's good, dude. I remember I would get pretty nervous before games, and I remember we were playing Colorado at 10 a.m. their time, so it was 9 a.m. Pacific, and I couldn't eat, and so I went to Coach Turley, and I was like, Coach Turley, like, I just can't eat, and he said, just drink orange juice because there's carbs, it has some vitamins, etc. Long story short, Emmett, I drank way too much orange juice. And when I was running onto the field to do my first kickoff, I like puked. And then I was totally fine, dude. And then I was totally fine. Have you ever thrown up before a game or anything like that?
I haven't. That's an unbelievable story.
Yeah.
I don't know. I hope not too many people were there to see it.
I had a touchback, dude. So that's all that matters.
Okay, so then who cares? Yeah, it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had that experience. I know, like, some guys, they just do it before every game. You look over, they're throwing out just because, they get a little nervous. But I guess for me, one of the ways to try to quell the nerves is realizing that I've waited so long for this. I think that's the easiest thing for me, is like that mentality, especially when you're coming as a walk-on, like, screw it. I literally have nothing to lose, I have only everything to gain here. And so I might as well just kind of turn my brain off and just do the motion that I've done 1,000 times, and it'll figure itself out. So that's what I just try to have, that kind of happy-go-lucky attitude. I feel like for me, that's everything, just to really helps me to keep calm and stay focused on what we're trying to do.
Yeah, dude, I love that. And again, just relating, I feel like for me, not caring as much helped me. Where you don't want to be too tight, where it's like, oh my God, if I miss this, everyone's gonna be pissed and we're gonna lose. It's like, no, dude, you're kicking a ball. And once the ball touches your foot, like, it's out of your control. You know what I mean?
Right.
So for me, it was like, I just took my steps, said, let's ride. And then from there, dude, it's muscle memory. Like, it's not Emmet. It's literally you kicking a ball 100,000 times, and it's just your muscles taking over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Getting into that flow state where you don't even know what happens. I remember at Syracuse, for that last kick against Syracuse, I remember kind of just like, all of a sudden it was 5 minutes after the kick, and I was like, what the hell just happened? Like, I don't even remember what just happened. You kind of black out, you know what I mean? Which I'm sure, I don't know if you felt that, in your career as well, whether it was against Notre Dame or whatnot, I especially would imagine. But that feeling is just unbelievable.
Dude, and take me through the Syracuse and the Louisville kicks, because similar to you, man, like, I don't remember the Notre Dame kick. I remember kind of running out to the sideline, and then I just remember getting picked up. And I just remember I looked up and I was like, oh, that went in. That's good. I'm glad that went in. You know what I mean? It's just, I was so calm.
Right.
But how were those two kicks? Take me through that walk-off against Syracuse, right? Down 1. and then a tie ball game against 22 Louisville at home. Epic 52-yarder.
Yeah, I think the Syracuse one was really special for me just because that was our first ACC game. That environment too. I don't know if you've ever been in that dome up there, but it was insane. It was rocking. It was loud. And on that play, so they iced me the first time I went out there. They took the time out, and then the next time I was trying to kick it, we actually had a false start, and so we had to back up 5 yards. And I remember I made the kick, and then, everyone kind of takes me up, whatever, kind of that same feeling of like, what's going on? And then when they told me after that there were 2 delays, I only remembered there being 1, like genuinely. I did not remember them icing me. I remember the false start, but I was like, because I think my heart was just beating out of my chest, I assume. And so I think that's what happened with the Syracuse one. And that was great celebrating in that place. And then for Louisville, hitting to hit a game winner in our stadium, that was super special. Especially because that was a career long for me as well, up until this point. And so it was going to be a 57-yarder originally, but we got him to draw him off sides. We actually used a hard count with our holder on that one. That was kind of wild. And then so we moved up to 52. And then, like we talked about, just flipped the brain off. And I looked up and saw I was going in, and then just, you get the biggest bear hug ever. And it was an amazing feeling.
That's epic, man. I'm so happy for you. There is nothing better than seeing other Stanford kickers succeed, and you've obviously crushed it, dude. And how did it feel earning a scholarship, and when did that happen?
Yeah, so that was huge. I mean, that was, of course, one of the biggest things that I was hoping to get out of this past season. And I had won the job in camp, but they said, you got to prove that you can do it in a game, which I understand because, kickers can be great in fall camp. And then, once you get in the games, it can be a completely different story. And so, first game against TCU, I went 2 for 2 in that one. I felt pretty good about it. Was saying, hey, is there any chance we could have a conversation about this? Let's wait till the bye week. So, next week against Cal Poly, I went 2 for 2 again. And then during the bye week, that next week, he called me in. Coach Taylor called me into his office, and he told me that I was going to be getting a scholarship. And that was just a surreal feeling, because as a walk-on, that's exactly what you dream of. So many walk-ons, they walk off the team before they're ever had the chance to try to get a scholarship, or sometimes, it just doesn't work out for guys. And so to be one of the guys that was able to kind of work my way up and to get on payroll, in a sense, that was an amazing feeling. And I know my parents were happy about it too. So I'm really glad of the timing of it, and that it all worked out.
Dude, that's awesome, man. Super happy for you. And just to relate to it, I was the exact same way, dude. We played Northwestern, made 2 kicks, played UCF, made 2 kicks. And then that third week was when I got put on as well. I'll always remember that phone call, dude, to my mom, where I was like, hey, Mom, you don't need to pay for school anymore. And I just started crying.
Right. 100%. That family FaceTime call, I think they kind of knew it was coming, but seeing everyone's face light up, it meant a lot.
Dude, that's awesome, man. And so I want to talk about the specs room a little bit. So you were under Josh Carty, legend, kicker for the Rams. How is kicking, with him, and how's the specs room right now? How are the boys?
Yeah, absolutely. Working with Josh was amazing. I mean, I will say he is the most meticulous worker I've ever been around, and also, the hardest worker as well. I mean, that guy, he does nothing but think about football, and it shows. And that's why he's so good at his craft and what he does. I try to be perhaps maybe a little bit more loose about it, just because I feel like if I get all wound up in a knot, then it actually can negatively impact performance. And I'd say that's kind of the vibe of our whole spec group right now. We like to, I think we all recognize that we're just here playing D1 football in California. I mean, we're what more can we ask for? And so we're a pretty happy-go-lucky crew. When it comes to, we got an annual mini golf tournament. It's highly contested. The freshman kicker and I, of course, the kickers come out on top again. So, nothing's new there. Long snappers are still mad about it. So, some of the group dynamics never change.
Yeah, dude, I love that, man. It's a very special room. And I think a lot of people don't understand how you're just playing a completely different game than all other positions on the football field, right? There's just no one who can relate to kicking, punting, snapping, right, in any other position.
Exactly. Yeah,
totally,
you're really on an island. Yeah.
But we love that island. It's like when people would ask me, Emmett, how do you feel about when people ice you? And for me, it's like, dude, more TV time.
Right,
That's
exactly.
sweet.
There you
We'll
go.
take it, dude. Like Syracuse,
Right.
I wish they would have iced you 10 times. Then it's like, get more TV time, dude. More for the clout. And dude, so one thing that you have that I did not have is NIL. When did NIL happen in your career and how have things changed?
So that was, I think the first time, I think it was allowed to be issued my first year going in. And then I think it took time getting set up as it did at pretty much everywhere else. And then I think it started going into effect my sophomore year. You know, the cool thing about our collective is that everyone gets some type of contribution, which is huge. You know, I don't
Even
think it's
walk-ons.
like that. Exactly. Yes.
Cool.
And so, you know, that means a lot. That means a lot it meant a lot to me, especially because, you know, I was riding the bench, but so shout out to Lifetime Cardinal. They got great people over there. Shout out to them. I really appreciated it, but you know, they do a phenomenal job. And also the events that we get to go do as a part of it are really fun. I remember going over to Stanford Hospital in the fall, fulfilling, you know, one of my requirements out there, getting to hang out with, you know, some kids that were in the hospital and seeing the smile on their faces. It made my day. So working with them it's been a blast.
That's awesome, man. So so you felt the effects. Then I assume it's awesome that they're doing stuff for everyone and not just the Scully guys. I think that's really great. And how has it changed in terms of like guys joining the team transfers and then in the day to day, like has the food gotten better?
Right. I you know, I don't know if there's been as many changes in that regard. I mean, you know, it is what it is. I think, especially too, when you have guys transferring in more often now, especially that's one of the things that we're changing, especially with Andrew Luck taking over, is that we have more transfers coming in now. I think we have something like 12 transfers coming in, which I might have the number wrong, but
wow,
that's something that we're not used to here at Stanford. But, you know, at other places, that's the way it is. They have even, you know, a bigger revolving door of players coming and going. But I think that's where locker room just becomes the number one most important thing in team culture. And I think we have it right now. And so, you know, the guys that came in over January, and I know we have some guys coming in here in a couple months as well. They've really fit in. But we love having those guys, and it's been really fun trying to get to know them.
that's awesome, dude. I can't really think of why you wouldn't want to transfer to Stanford, right? If go get the best Ivy League dudes, go get the best guys at, you know, Duke, Northwestern, etc. To your point, why would you not want to come to Palo Alto?
Right. No, yeah. To me, it doesn't. I don't know why you wouldn't. I don't know what you have to lose from going to play going to play football at one of the best schools in the world. So, yeah, for me, it's a no-brainer. And I think, you know, we're bringing people in here, so some other people feel the same.
Totally agree, dude. So you had, how many years did you have under Shaw?
I was with Coach Shaw for my first 2 years.
Okay.
And then now the last two have been with Coach Taylor, and then, you know, going into this one as well.
Nice. And so, okay, so 50-50 career. How has the program changed with Coach Taylor?
I think it's different in some ways. I'd say being under Coach Shaw was amazing, you know, just because he has so much street cred within those confines and in the athletic facilities. And I mean, he's an amazing guy. I'm so grateful for everything that he did, especially, you know, bringing me here, signing off on me. You know, I'm not even sure if they showed him film. Maybe Coach Almro's just like, hey, we want to take this guy. And, you know, Coach Shaw says, all right, fine. But, you know, no matter what the process was, I'm really grateful for him. And he's just a phenomenal dude. But I'd say once it changed over to Coach Taylor, you know, the staff coming in, you know, some younger guys, getting some young blood in here. It's definitely a change. But I think it's been a fun one to navigate. And, you know, coaching changes happen all the time in college football. And so you can't really, you know, take it as that big of a deal. I know some guys, they get apprehensive about where they want to be because of a coaching change, but I really think that you commit to school, you don't commit to coaches. And so,
For sure.
You know, Coach Taylor came in here, and yeah, maybe things a little bit different in the day to day, but you know, at the end of the day, we're still Stanford students getting to play in Stanford Stadium. And so once the lights flip on, it's no different.
Yeah. I agree, man. And in starting this last year, what stadium was the toughest to kick in?
That's an interesting question. I mean, Syracuse was just, God, that dome gets so loud. All the sound echoing off the ceiling. I can't even begin to describe just how loud it got, especially towards the end of the game. That was an unbelievable environment. Notre Dame would probably be the toughest one, I would say, just because going back to the Midwest, you know, reminds you how windy it is up there. And, you know, I don't know what your experience was kicking in that stadium, but I just remember feeling like, okay, the wind is feeling one way on my body, and then the flags are going the opposite direction. So what is going on here? And it's cold and it's kind of miserable. And so I'd say Notre Dame was probably the toughest.
Yeah, Notre Dame was tough early in my career because they didn't have turf my first couple of years. So it was grass and it was really thick. My fifth year, I had a 45-yard field goal on the right hash. And I swear, Emmet, I felt the wind going left to right. And so I aimed a little bit more left and I ended up hitting the top of the left upright and it like bounced on the top. But it was on ESPN, not for a good thing because it didn't go in technically, but.
Oh my God. So yeah, they didn't count it?
No, but I got the clout, dude. It's fine. Whatever.
Yeah, there you go. You got some street time. That makes up for it.
Dude, did you ever play at, I know they're not at Pac-12 anymore, but were you ever up at UW at Washington?
Unbelievable. UW is so cool. I never kicked up there in the game, but I went, I traveled up there, and that place, I mean, on the water, you're driving up, and it's right on that lake that they have up there. That place is stunning, and it got really loud too.
Dude, yeah, that's why I bring it up. For me, UW was the loudest stadium I ever played in when I was a starter. And then when I was a freshman, we played at Oregon. This was like Kevin Hogan to Zach Ertz, where we won in overtime. They were number 2. Anyways, back then, Emmett, you were allowed to play crowd noise through the speakers. And so they would literally, Oregon would play crowd noise through the speakers and blast it. And I would be standing right next to you and I would like be screaming. It was absurd. Like the turf is shaking, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. My sophomore year, we went up to Oregon and Washington. We had them both in that same year. And I think those were definitely probably the 2 loudest environments that I've been in, not just playing, but being at the game. I completely agree with you. Austin Stadium up there, the traditions that they have that the fans were doing, during like the start of the fourth quarter and whatnot, that place is magical. So, I have a very similar, experience in that regard.
Totally, dude. And how's not having a special teams coordinator? So you had Coach Pete Alomar. Shout out Coach Alomar. He's literally the GOAT now at UCF. But now, to my understanding, you guys just have different position coaches who coach different parts of special teams?
Exactly. Yeah. So we'll have some of the different coaches, like you say, they're in charge of scheme for say kickoff, punt return, punt. But the person working with us on the day-to-day, we have Fred Giudice. He's quality control, but he really works with us every single day. And so he's in all the specialist meetings trying to help us get through our practices. And then he also helps with schematics. And, I'd say that he kind of has a lot of oversight of the whole thing, but it really works pretty well, honestly. I mean, when it's field goal period, then, the tight end coach steps up to kind of take charge and it goes to kickoff. Then it's the linebacker coach. And I think it's a different way of doing things, but, it's how this current staff was doing it at Sacramento State, and I have no issues with it, and I think it works pretty well.
Totally, dude. So moving away from football, actually, no, not moving away from football. How are we looking next year, dude? What's our bold prediction?
We're looking to improve on the last few years. I think in my 4 years we've been 3-9 each season, which clearly, it's just not the standard that teams like the ones you were on set for us, and so. We're working our ass off to really, try to get better and improve. And our goal for us this year is, we want to win 6, 7, 8. We want to make a bowl game. We want to win games. And so, that'll never change. And I think bringing in a lot of the transfers like we're doing, we're showing ambition. I think it's huge. And I'm feeling really optimistic about it, honestly. We have some dudes, and I feel like we're good to go in the spec room. I think we're on top of things. And, maybe I can only speak to us because I don't really know what's going on at the rest of the practice. But I'm optimistic. I think it'll be a good year of improvement for us.
Yeah, that's so real, dude. People want to say, oh yeah, Conrad, how are you going to be next year? It's like, I know how the kickers are going to be,
right?
But I'm not watching anyone else. I don't know the quarterbacks. They look better than my high school quarterback,
Right.
I don't know.
Exactly.
And how has NIL and the transfer portal specifically affected specialists?
I think, there's definitely, I don't think specialists use it probably as much because, I feel like specialists can often be more academically inclined too, especially, if you go to the school because you like it for the academics, or they have your program and whatnot, you're probably less inclined to leave because, coaching changes, that really doesn't change our job as much, So I think the portal's there is an option for everybody, but, I don't think that it's a big change for kickers. I will say like NIL is very nice. I know that there's a good amount of people, making some pretty decent money, especially, for kicking. But I think at the end of the day, people realize that kicking can decide outcomes of games. And so that's kind of worth investing in and throwing a little bit of money at to make sure that, you have 3 points in your back pocket if you need it. So I think that for us, it's not been as big of an impact for, as opposed to other positions, but it's still definitely been there. And it's been fun to make a little cash. I can't even lie.
For sure, dude. For sure. Put that into Bitcoin and then we'll be billionaires. You had a COVID season in high school. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah, that was my senior year. So
yep.
I remember we would suit up at our home stadium and then drive ourselves in our pads over to the games. It was wild.
No way. Drive yourself separately to the games.
Exactly. Yeah, because Fargo, they didn't bus us to in-town games. We had to drive ourselves there. And we didn't have a locker room. So that meant that we got dressed at school. I remember walking out to the car, like holding my helmet, wearing my shoulder pads, trying to, find the break and whatnot while I'm wearing a cleat. It was ridiculous.
Wow. Okay, that makes your 58-yard field goal even more impressive now that you're just driving over in your pads.
Exactly. Yeah, it was strange. It was really weird.
That's wild. And then your first year at Stanford, then that was 2021. You had fans back in.
Yes. Yeah. So we still dealt with it in some capacity, like when it came to school and stuff on campus. But I think with football, I don't think there were any real limitations. We got COVID tested every week, which sucked because every athlete was. And so the line took, 2 hours maybe to file all the way through. But when it came to the football itself, I don't think it was really as much impacted.
Yeah, totally, dude. So let's talk life outside of football. What do you do when you're not kicking footballs?
I really love to get to Lakes Country in Minnesota. I mean, that's my favorite place, getting out on the lake. And we're not able to, as you know, you only get a few weeks off in a year. So it's kind of limited with how you can choose to spend your free time. But in terms of being on campus, I really just try to get out and active and be outside and enjoy our campus because it's absolutely stunning. And I think it's easy to kind of get cooped up and, lose sight of that. And so for me, I just love going on walks. I'll hike the dish. I'll just go hang out in the quad, whatever it is. Trying to, get yourself away from football when you need to. So that's something that I try to do a lot. And I think that there's no better place to be able to do that than here, honestly.
For sure, man. I'll always remember. So I went back to Stanford for business school and I went on a run my first day of business school. And I remember thinking to myself, this is the first time I've ever gone on a run around campus because we were always on the field. Why would I ever go on a run around campus when we had training?
Exactly. Yeah. It would make no sense.
Totally, dude. I remember thinking, wow, this is such a different experience. And random question, has the campus golf tradition lived on? Have you guys ever done campus golf?
100%. 100%. Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You have an off day the next day, a little bit of boozy campus golf. Absolutely. Yeah. There's nothing better. Yeah, we absolutely still get that in rotation.
Gosh, that makes me so happy. For everyone listening, this is PG. You just get tennis balls and some old golf clubs, and different buildings are different holes. And so that started with when I was in SAE, and we'd go around, and it was just the best Saturday off season thing, dude. Just do some campus golf.
Right. Totally. Yeah. We got to bring it back. It's been a year since we've done it. So I'm going to text the guys after this. We're going to get it set up.
Dude, text the guys, get out there, dude. I'll drive up from Santa Monica. I'll come out and I'll be
absolutely.
I'll be the caddy. And Stanford social life, has the social life changed a lot since you get there? I mean, I know it's a touchy subject, but there has been the Stanford hates fun type thing. Sounds like you've enjoyed your experience.
Yeah, I think it can be true about all places, but I think it's especially true here that when it comes to fun at Stanford or just being at Stanford in general, it's all about what you make of it. It's not like a school where there's going to be a party 6 nights a week. It's just not going to be like that. But the thing is, if you want to have a good time, it's so easy to get out and find things to do. We're in the Bay Area, one of the biggest metro areas in the country. We're on a beautiful campus. I've absolutely had an amazing time, and especially with spring quarter coming up. Now, spring ball is the focus, but I'm not going to lie, that post spring quarter is going to be a lot of fun. I know when, the activities and the excitement kind of start to amp up a little bit when the sun comes out. And so that's going to be fun down the line.
Totally, man. Last question for you. Kickers were a specific part of the game, but what are your goals for the next year?
I have some lofty ambitions. I'm not going to lie. For me, one of my biggest things is I want to make it to the NFL. I want to have a good season. I want to go to the combine, like you did. I want to try to do the best I can and give myself a run at it, give myself a shot. And so for me, that means my goal is to go 100% this year, which, Josh did it in his career. And I think there's nothing wrong with shooting for it. And so, if I can try to help make every kick when I'm out there, I think it'd be huge for us. And so for me, it's just taking it one kick at a time. That's all I'm looking to do. And then, we'll look up when the season's over, see what the percentage is, and then try to train for the NFL, and we'll see how all that goes. But would also like to get a couple more game winners under my belt. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I miss that feeling. So I'd like to be able to get it back again.
Yeah, dude, nothing like it. Well, I'm sure you'll crush it. And I love that, man. Manifest it, right? Put it into the universe. And you're exactly right. How do you make every kick? By making the next one, right? One at a time. For sure, dude. I love that.
Totally.
Okay, sweet. Moving on. So now we're going to get to the speed round. I'm just going to give you a quick question, and you just give me a one-word answer as best you can.
Got it. Okay, let's do it.
Sweet. Pre-game song.
Drake.
Nice. I guess this answers this next question. Country or rap?
Rap.
Yep. Who's your favorite kicker of all time?
Oh, man. Vinatieri.
Yeah, legend.
Yeah.
What's your golf handicap?
Oh, God, man, this is exposing me. I'm gonna be generous. I'm gonna say 20.
Yeah, dude, I'm right there too, man. I played every week, like 3 times a week in business school, and I marginally improved. It's so hard, dude. When you didn't play growing up.
So hard. Right.
What's your favorite stadium you've ever played in?
Clemson. Death Valley.
Yeah, I was there, dude. That was epic. I was actually met your mom there.
That's right.
She was awesome, and she was just like my parents. Like she was really nervous. Like my parents would get so nervous, dude. Yeah, it's awesome.
That checks out. That sounds right.
Yeah, it means they care. It's awesome. What's the worst stadium you've kicked in?
That's an interesting one. I think Hawaii maybe. No disrespect to Hawaii. We're going there again this year, so I'm really looking forward to it. It's gonna be a great time out on that island. But nice. If I had to offer an answer, I'd say that one.
Well, didn't you guys play in like their new stadium or side stadium or something?
Exactly. Yeah. It's not even they're forced to kind of play in like not even a football stadium right now. So it's really not even their fault. It's
totally. Dude.
They're doing the best they can, and they got the rolled up bleachers over there. But
totally. How many tackles do you have?
0.
That's good.
Unfortunately. Yeah, I guess it could be a good thing, but yeah, I'd like to get on the stat sheet somewhere else.
Yeah, I have 3 recorded my sophomore year when I did the kickoffs, and it was all me just pushing dudes out of bounds.
It's tackle.
Yeah,
it's a tackle. Who cares, right?
Yeah, the kicker should get as much love as the quarterback. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah, dude.
Of course, yes.
Absolutely. My thing is, when you meet someone at the bar, you just say, "Hey, you play football?" And I just say, "Yeah, I'm on the team. I'm a football player." We can just stop there. We don't need any more details.
Exactly.
If you could trade places for any non-kicker football player for a game, who would it be? Trade positions.
Quarterback.
Yeah.
Being in charge of the offense. I mean, God, I can't imagine the stress, but it'd sure be a lot of fun.
Yeah, you got to, dude. That'd be sweet.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
That'd be sweet. Best post-game meal.
Jimmy V's, honestly. Jimmy V's, they make our post-game meals up there.
Yeah.
Shout out to those guys. Jimmy V's, fantastic. It doesn't miss. I love when they make our post-game food. It's fantastic. So
yeah, Jimmy V slaps,
dude.
One.
It does.
Sometimes they would give us Chick-fil-A, but it would be too cold.
Really? I don't even think we've gotten Chick-fil-A. Oh my God, wait. I'm gonna offer a suggestion. I'm gonna hit the suggestion box.
Jimmy V slap. Yeah, throw it in there, dude. Who's your funniest teammate at Stanford?
Mudia Rubin, by far.
Love it.
He's a wide receiver. Hilarious, dude.
I love that. What's the weirdest special teams meeting moment you've had?
Probably Coach Almar telling us he was leaving Stanford.
Yeah.
That was strange. That was pretty weird. It was sad as well, but it is what it is. It happens.
Yeah. Who's your favorite non-football athlete?
Man, that's so tough. Roger Federer.
Yeah, he's sick. One word to describe the feeling after hitting a game winner.
Euphoria.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Who has the strongest leg on the team besides you?
I might give it to Mudia Rubin again. He was a kicker in high school, honestly.
Yeah.
I might give it to him. I would say Aiden Flintoff, our punter, but I can't give him that much credit. He's the obvious answer. Totally.
I know the Flintoffs. They're great. They're all from LA, like me.
Right.
Dude, when I was at Stanford, we had Justin Reed, who's a safety for the Chiefs, the Kansas City Chiefs. And dude, one day he kicked off and he could bang the ball like 5'10" deep. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I'm never going to kick off. And you can look it up. He's kicked a couple of PATs and kickoffs for the Chiefs when Harrison Butker got hurt.
Right. I remember seeing that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That guy is such an athlete. Yeah. What a beast.
Dude.
And I was on the Saints, my team as well. So there we go.
Oh my God. And he would just lay walk-ons out in practice, dude. Just lay them out. I was like, oh my God, thank God I'm a kicker, dude, because that dude is dead.
Poor guys. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, so if you had to kick just in street shoes, what's the longest field goal you can make? It's tough. It's the balance, dude. The slip.
50. I'll just say 50. Street shoes, who knows going beyond that?
Yeah.
That'd be tough.
No, yeah. Totally. At the NFL Combine, I remember the Arizona Cardinals special teams coach asked me how far I could kick a pencil.
Really?
Yeah.
I know those draft interviews are weird, but not that weird. That's not what I was even expecting.
Dude, they're weird, man. We'll talk about that offline, but one guy like pulled up my Instagram of my like ex-girlfriend and was like, "Are you still dating this girl?" And my Instagram was private too. I was like, "How did you get in there, dude?"
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Wow. Who would win in a 40-yard dash in the specs room?
Peyton Warford. He's our long snapper. Unfortunately, he's the fastest one. You know, that's what the data says, so I can't even argue with it.
Dude. Do you guys still do the 6 a.m.s where you compete one-on-one?
Not anymore. I miss those. I do miss those from Guy kind of shy era, but yeah, not anymore.
Yeah, dude. I was going into my 5th year and I had to go up against Jake Bailey, who's now the punter for the Dolphins. Dude, that guy. I thought I was, going to my 5th year. I'm like, I'm going to cream this dude. He's just next level athlete, man. He kicked my ass.
He's insanely athletic. He's huge too. Yeah, he's a beast.
He's huge. I was just at his wedding last weekend in Cabo, dude. He says, "What's up?" Yeah,
wow,
it was fun.
There we go. That's awesome.
It was epic. Last question, man. What's next for Emmet Kenney?
Ideally, the NFL. That's what I'm really hoping for. Try to end it out here at Stanford on a good note. Both in school and also on the field. But my sights set on it, and I think that's the nice part of going to Stanford. Even if it doesn't work out, I'll land on my feet. But it's definitely what I'm going to strive for, and so I'm going to give it everything I can.
100%, dude. Emmet, thanks for coming on, man. For those who want to follow along, where can people find you?
Mainly just on Instagram. It's at Emmet Kenney, and then I'm also on Twitter as well with the same handle. I try to throw some ironic content out there from the spec series especially. Yeah, absolutely.
I love it, dude. We're gonna come up and we'll make a campus golf TikTok when I get up there.
Absolutely. We'll get it done. I'm looking forward to it.
I love it. Awesome. Emmet, thanks for your time, man. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
See you, man. Peace.